What's up? Ghost Fictions is here, and we're back again. This is the fourth part of a story where DxD Universe reacts to betrayed villain Issei. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more information. Now, let's get into part 4. Mary and Ingvild were teleported to the place as they looked around. It was a simple hotel room. They looked around to see if this was really Issei's room. However, they only saw an endless hallway. They knew this was in a separate location far away from this place. Are you sure this is the place? Mary looked at Ingvild as she spoke. I have no clue. This is the place. Revan stated he would be their guest. Our only option is to go inside. Mary nodded as they both opened the door. There they saw Issei sitting on the couch watching some television, having some food. Issei looked at them as he greeted them. Hey you two, I was expecting you. The two girls had tears in their eyes. It was their Issei, the same Issei that was betrayed by the women he loved. But he was different. He looked different than what he normally used to look. He now had black hair and brown eyes. He wore black jacket and white t-shirt with black stripes. He additionally had an insignia on his left pocket, indicating the insignia of the Red Dragon. He had settled down in his room after intense training courtesy of Great Red and several Isseis. The girls did not hesitate and immediately jumped on Issei, almost making him fall as he spoke. Whoa, easy. I just came back from training. The girls did not respond, as they kept crying on his clothes. Issei sighed for a moment as he hugged his older sister, and the only one that he believed in him. She wanted to become a better queen for his sake. She even informed him that she will be gone for days. The girls soon split up and had tears in their eyes, as he spoke with a smile. Do you two wish to sit for a while? We have a lot of catching up to do. The two girls nodded with a smile, as they rubbed their tears off and took a seat each, with Mary asking. How have you been? Like the girls. Issei took a deep breath and spoke. Much better than before. If anything, I have already gotten past it, thanks to Red and the other Isseis. Speaking of which, I heard you are watching one of them, right? Yeah, he scares me a lot. The fact that he was so merciless and aggressive has scared not just me and Mary Nee, but also the rest of us as well. Ingvild spoke with a bit of fear. The outburst concept Issei had done before, but even then, we can't blame him. I agree, the fact that they are so callous, ignorant and apathetic towards Issei is really something. Like, how can they not realize that they treated him like garbage, yet they demand his help as if nothing has ever happened. Some have even tried to hurt him. Mary spoke with anger in her voice. She was beyond livid on how Issei was treated due to some lies, and now that he is powerful, they care for him. She was glad that he was not helping them, and she hoped that he never did. Concept's a bit aggressive, but trust me, he is a really nice guy once you get to know him. Ingvild responded with a deadpan tone. I doubt it. Now you will be seeing his aggressive side. His sweet side is only meant for the ones he loves and cares for. In a way, he is still the same Issei you once know and care about. Issei told them the truth. Revan asked him to not spoil the viewing in any way, and Issei only told them something that they have already viewed, his relationship towards Persephone and Drake being a prime example of it. I am not sure about it, Ice. It is just that his dark and aggressive side has scared us so much that we don't even know about it anymore. Mary spoke with slight fear in her voice. She would be lying if Concept actually did not scare her in any way, as someone then spoke with a smirk. You know, it is not nice to talk about someone behind their backs. The trio recognized that voice. It was an alternate of Issei, but who exactly? Issei recognized the Issei alternate, while Mary and Ingvild did not. The three looked at him. He was Issei, but he looked different. He had the same brown hair and brown eyes. He wore a white jacket and a black t-shirt. The jacket sleeves were yellow in color, and he wore sport wrists and a watch in his hands. Well, Concept, it's been a while. What brings you here? Issei spoken with a friendly smile, causing Mary and Ingvild to stiffen up. It was the same Issei that had completely destroyed Valerie, along with the residents of the Haidu residence, along with Lavinia. Relax, you two, he is not that bad. Mary and Ingvild were not convinced. This was the same Issei that nearly killed Lavinia, as Mary asked, how can we be so sure? What if he is here to harm us? If I wanted to do some real damage, I would have done that a while back in the theater itself. Concept. Issei spoke seriously, as Mary and Ingvild gulped, while Issei glared at him and responded, you do know you are scaring them. They are watching your world and what you did, right? Concept. Issei sighed and spoke. Yeah, I guess you are right anyways. I am not here to harm you, just wanted to let you know that someone else will be training you for the time being. I have some work back in my world. Who is that? Concept. Concept. Issei looked at him and spoke. He will be appearing in a few minutes, so I'd say you to be ready. He has got a lot of work in his kingdom, so he will be coming after that. Till then, do you wish for a talk? Concept. Issei spoke looking at the two girls, as he continued, I know you are not my Ingvild, and I never had an older sister, so we can talk if you'd like. Mary and Ingvild looked at each other for a moment, as Mary spoke with a gulp, as sure, why not? Say, why did you go this far? Like, why did you not leave that place forever? alone with Nyx since you clearly loved her concept. Issei sighed, he had a choice of doing just that and living a peaceful life, he then spoke, it was not easy. Why not? Why did you not choose that instead of wanting many dead? Mary exclaimed in disbelief, she was horrified seeing a version of her little brother act like this. Concept. Issei responded, it is not just that, I could release Nyx and escape live a life, if anything I actually was considering doing that, but you know if the factions found out that I did escape with Nyx, they would do anything in their power to locate her and hunt her down, potentially get her killed. And I was not going to let that happen. He is right on that, you know, a voice spoke up. This was revealed to be Concept. Issei's Drake, Aka Concept. Drake as he spoke. The factions are rotten beings in our world, what they did in the first 2 viewings are a prime example of what they will do later, and trust me, you will hate them more than you hate my partner, believe me they just don't learn from their mistakes, like a bunch of idiots. Concept. Drake's words startled both Mary and Ingvild, making them wonder what they will be witnessing, as Concept. Issei added. True, they often see themselves as superior, looking down upon humans and other sacred gear users, they won't show it, but soon you will realize it. Mary and Ingvild now started to realize what Concept Issei was going through as Ingvild then asked, but what about I? Like shouldn't his exposure change things? Just asking. Not really. Issei spoke after shaking his head, it did not, I won't reveal much, but things have barely changed, they invade my privacy many times, forcing me to literally use force to drive them away, they treat me like garbage even after that, and the only reason they leave me alone is fear. That is it. I see they seem to be really rotten people. Ingvild spoke as both Concept Issei and Issei agree with Ingvild's words, as their Issei spoke, this is why I don't and will never join them, no matter what happens, I don't trust them anymore, they did little to nothing to stop Rias and her actions, so why should I work for them, plus they will never accept me now with the power I have. What do you mean? Mary spoke with a tone of surprise as Issei responded, I'll make it easier, you see when a mate betrays a dragon, there is something that happens with their body. The infamous disease is called Dragon's Fall. The stronger the love you have for your mate, the more dangerous the disease becomes. Mary. Wait, that means Mary spoke with a tone full of dread as she continued with tears in her eyes, you almost died. Yeah, had it not been for Revan and an old enemy of mine, I wouldn't even been here, I would have been long dead before you know it. Concept. Issei added his own words, thankfully, my bond with my Ingvild was not that strong as opposed to his bond with his Rias, but the fact that she cheated on him showed how little she cared for his feelings, and same goes for all those whores that cheated on him. Mary and Ingvild dreaded this, he would have died a long time ago, his hatred for the factions is justified. If anything, even they realized how bad things are. They are not taking things seriously. What's worse is that Rias influenced even those that normally wouldn't have cheated on me, like for instance Asia and Irina would never cheat on me, they look up to Rias as an older sister and mentor figure, but in reality, she is nothing short of a spoiled brat, if anything. This is not true in my reality, it is true in Concept's reality as well. Concept. Issei nodded in agreement as he spoke, she is worse in mine, and you will see why soon enough. The 2 girls nodded in agreement, given what they have seen so far, she is someone who is nothing short of a pampered brat who believes in her own delusions about Issei. Then someone spoke as well, I have to agree on that with the 2 of you. Issei's boosted gear showed up after a very long time, as Issei asked. Long time no see, so how was your nap? Drake responded, it was good and it is nice to meet you again. Concept. Issei. Me too, old friend. Concept. Issei responded happily, as Concept. Drake spoke, you too, Drake from another world. Indeed, Concept. Issei smiled as he soon spoke, alright, I'll take my leave, I will let the 2 of you catch up with each other. The 2 girls nodded as Concept. Issei walked out of the door, leaving Mary and Ingvild alone with Issei. Mary then spoke, I guess he is not so bad. Ingvild seemed to agree with this, as Ingvild then asked, then how did you survive? You would be surprised, let's just say the Beast of Apocalypse saw my suffering and decided to lend me a hand, they agreed to work with me and merge into one being. Now I am considered the new dragon god of Apocalypse. Issei spoke with a smile, as Mary and Ingvild nodded seriously, they understood that Trahexa saw his suffering and decided to lend a hand to save him. They offered me a new life, and by merging, the pieces in my body and my feelings for those girls are gone, there was no trace of my love for them left, and that was how I was saved. If anything, Trahexa and I are one, and the same being. The change in my body was due to this. Issei explained to the girls, causing them to nod. He then continued, however, my body is not yet ready for the full power, right now I can only 10% of Trahexa's powers, I need to train if I can use its full potential. I see, and with a boosted gear, you can be potentially unstoppable. Mary spoke with awe, as Issei nodded, as he spoke, yes, but with what other Isseis like me went through, and what Trahexa is in their eyes, the factions will see me as a threat, especially some gods who are known to be prideful. Issei spoke, remembering Concept. Issei and another Issei speak about gods. From their accounts, they were known to be prideful and arrogant, so they will hate if Issei surpasses them, causing him to deal with them accordingly. So that means your power may be seen as a threat. Issei looked at Ingvald, who asked the question as he spoke. Yes, plus there is a threat that some Isseis have faced, some that make Great Red look like nothing, just an ant to them, so I have to deal with them, and with the gods getting in my way, I can't do that. Mary and Ingvald were surprised by this. They feared on a prospect that of a being that would surpass Great Red, making him look like nothing. Who are they? Issei then spoke with a serious tone. I will tell you, but on a condition: you must not tell anyone. Alright, tell me, what is this threat? We won't tell anyone, but who is this threat? Issei took a deep breath and responded. They are beings from the outer universe. You see, Rizavim did not stop at just unsealing the beast of apocalypse, but he also sent a message to unknown being from another universe, and that is the universe of Evietald. For short, you can call it EXE. The beings we will be having a problem in the future are the Evies, outer gods that will invade our world in the coming future. Their leader is the true outer evil god Regalziva, the one that will defeat and kill the Apocalypse Dragon, Great Red, in the future, and my job is to prepare against them to stop them from ever invading, cause if I don't we will be completely annihilated. Draconic Deus, DXD, our universe will be no more merry, and Ingvald now knew the stakes why Issei is not wanting to be part of the factions. He has two major reasons to not work with the factions: they would only get in his way. They would only cause problems. So is there anything we can do to help? And does anyone else know about this? Issei responds to Mary with a neutral tone. I would state to become stronger, we need to be as strong as possible if we need to deal with this invasion. As for the others, Hades and the Alliance of Hell know about this. They believe that by eliminating me and the other Longinus along with the current gods and supernatural leaders, they think that they will win against the outer gods of the EXE universe, but that is not true. That is anything but true. They think that they stand a chance, but if they can kill Great Red, then they don't have a chance. They will be crushed like ants. We will be done for. Speaking of which, Revan informed that you plan to make a team of your own, so who are they? Issei smiled in response as he spoke. Guys, I think you should make your presence known. Moments later, a magic circle opened up revealing three figures. The first was described to be his round face is framed by a short mop of fluffy dark green hair, which curls up at odd angles around his head, casting noticeably dark shadows onto itself. His eyes are large and somewhat circular, and his eyes are the same shade of green as his hair, which at times are very watery and are usually stretched quite wide, giving him an innocent, energized appearance. He has a set of 4 symmetrical freckles in diamond formations, one on each cheek. He had a toned appearance. This was Izuku Midoriya. He wore a darker teal full-body jumpsuit with a red belt, light beige elbow pads, knee pads extended to his legs, now reaching up to his thighs, and gloves, along with his signature red boots. His new gloves are also tinted light beige and are decorated with blue stripes. The second person was a very beautiful young girl, but with some childish facial features given by her young age, which give her a doll-like appearance, along with her almost impassive demeanor. She has a slim build of medium height and fair skin. Her face is a little narrow and elongated, with large blue eyes and thick dark lashes. The blonde hair ends on her hips, but in front of her face she has a fringe that ends in the middle of the eyebrows, divided into 3 strands. One falls on her face, and the remaining 2 blend into 2 longer strands that end on the shoulders. It is tied in a low ponytail, with a black ribbon. She wore a white ribbon-tied dress with a Prussian blue jacket. She also wears a white pleated silk skirt and an emerald brooch on the middle of the ribbon tie, which is a gift she received from Gilbert. She also wears brown gloves and heeled long leather boots which are of a deep brown. When she goes on longer trips, she also carries a brown bag case and a blue parasol with her. This was Violet Evergarden. The third person was described to be a tall with a slender frame and a large breast. She has a waist-length white hair with a French braid tied behind her head and has purple eyes. She wears a blue sleeveless maid dress with frilly shoulders and bottoms, a white crop top, a blue buttoned waist corset, and a white frilled lace-trimmed apron wrapped around her waist, with a long anchored-themed garter dangling on each sides, white frilled arm gloves underneath a metal gauntlet, white stockings, black ribbon pumps and a maid headdress on top of her head. Meet my 3 peerage members, also the replacements of the ones that willingly left me. Meet my rook, Izuku Midoriya, my knight Violet Evergarden, and my bishop Belfast Issei, spoke with a smile, as the trio bowed in greeting as Mary spoke with a smile. It is a pleasure to meet you 3, so you must be the ones that have taken the new places those 3 had forsaken. Belfast walked forward and spoke with a smile. Indeed, Mary-sama, we have been saved and found by Issei-sama. A while back we decided to join his peerage, using specialized pieces called draconic pieces, which Great Red Sama made for Issei-sama. That was how he was able to reincarnate us as dragon hybrids. The three released their darkish red dragon wings behind them, indicating they were a part of Issei's side. The darkish red was primarily due to the power of Trahexa infused into these pieces. Yes, we all hail from different worlds. He has been traveling across many worlds and helped us when we needed him the most. He gave us a choice to join, and we accepted it. He never forced us to do anything. Izuku added his own words. As Violet nodded in agreement, she was the quiet one amongst the trio and rarely talked. To clarify, Belfast and Izuku were humans that were turned into dragons like me, reincarnated dragons, while Violet is an elf that was turned into a reincarnated dragon. We have no affiliation with the factions in any way. Issei spoke seriously as the girls nodded. He then removed a black-colored queen piece and spoke with a smile. Do you wish to come back as my queen piece? Issei asked with a genuine smile, leaving Ingvild wide-eyed. She and Mary were processing all the information that was disclosed between them. Issei having a new peerage set, they knew Great Red and Revan must have made this peerage set for him. They now have 3 allies that have a portion of Issei's strength. Ingvild and Mary were completely in a daze as Issei asked again. Ingvild? You there? Ingvild snapped out of it and asked, yeah. Issei asked again, do you wish to come back as my queen, Ingvild? Ingvild started to have tears in her eyes as Issei became a bit worried. He then spoke with concern, Ingvild, are you? Ingvild cuts Issei off and gives her answer by speaking, yes, I would love to come back as your queen. Ingvild spoke with a blushing smile as tears fell down from her eyes. Mary remained quiet, watching the scene in happiness as she was reunited with her lover. Ingvild accepted the piece as he began the chant. Ingvild Leviathan, do you accept the condition of being my queen? Ingvild looked at Issei and spoke with a smile, yes, yes I do. The piece entered into her body and she felt a surge of power. She could feel the power emanating inside of hers, which eclipsed that of even Belfast when she was taken into the peerage. 4 of her wings were transformed into draconic wings, just like Izuku, Violet and Belfast's wings. Now she had 4 dragon wings and 4 devil wings, due to her half-devil nature. Now she was a devil-dragon hybrid. Welcome back, Ingvild. Ingvild responded with a smile of her own. I am glad to be back. Seems like that would be the 4th who joins us, right? Issei looked at Izuku, who spoke as he continued, technically she was a returnee, and if you are considering those heathens then yes, she was the 4th who joined my peerage, so yeah, I guess you are right. Indeed, say what now, what is our plan now? Violet was the one who spoke. She looked at Issei and asked the question as he spoke. I'd say to rest for now, we have trained ourselves enough and we will be training soon enough. The trio nodded with a smile as they waved their goodbyes towards Issei, Ingvild and Mary, leaving the 3 alone. Mary then asked. Anyway, how did you meet the 3 anyway? Issei looked at her and spoke, that is a long story, but we met by sheer coincidence and chance of fate, if I would say so myself. But the girl wearing the maid costume, are you know? Do you like her? Ingvild was the one who asked as Issei was surprised by this, as he responded, no, she wants to serve me without distinction. I tried convincing her to not have the costume, but she wants to serve me, as a maid. I mean, you did notice her speech on how formal she was, right? Yeah, it's true, I was too taken aback by what had happened. Anyways, do you trust them like all of them? Issei nodded upon Mary's question as she spoke, at least more than those cheating heathens, I trust, so I'd say that's a plus. I see, I guess even I can have faith in them. Mary added as Ingvild started to shuffle nervously. He could see that she had a blush on her face as she asked, oh no, Issei. Yeah? Mary looked at Ingvild wondering what she wanted as Ingvild requested Issei, can I sleep with you tonight? Mary and Issei were surprised by this request as Issei responded with a smile, sure, why not? Ingvild beamed at this as she spoke with a tone full of gratitude while jumping on Issei, thank you Ice. Mary had a small smile on her face as she suddenly spoke with a snarky grin, but if you are going to do the deed, do wear protection, okay? The duo went beet red as Mary chuckled looking at them. Both of them were embarrassed at what Mary intended to do with as they exclaimed while blushing, Mary nee. The ha 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 ha. Seeing the look on your faces is really something, but Ingvild, take care of my brother, okay? Mary spoke with a genuine smile as Ingvild responded as she spoke, yeah I will. Mary then looked at Issei as she asked, Ice, can you ask Revan for a favor? Issei looked at her and asked, what is it? You know, the faction leaders have been asking for my sacred gears, and I am not in a mood to confront them. Issei understood about this. He was aware of her too longiness, the being innovate clear and Tilo's karma from Revan, and spoke, I will let him know that, and if that does not work, you can stay here as well. I agree, we need to keep a distance from the factions. Until then, you can stay with us. Mary gave a genuine smile in response as she hugged both Issei and Ingvild and spoke with a smile, thank you, thank you. Mary was genuinely happy. She did not want to deal with her parents, siblings and the factions, especially after hearing that he almost died thanks to the girls. Additionally, she remembered how she got her second longinus from her past due to a very bad memory. She did not want to remember it, but the factions reminded her of that. Issei and Ingvild returned the hug. They cared for her like her own. As an older sister, they cared for her even more than anyone else. They knew how much she cared for them, and she cared for them. Issei vowed to protect his older sister at all costs, just like she did for him when he was young. However, knock knock knock. All of a sudden, there was a knock on the door, garnering the attention of the trio as they looked to see a surprising older version of Issei. He was a brunette with matching brown eyes. He often dons a simple outfit. A dress shirt, pants, a scarf, belt, and a long coat. His scarf, pants, and shoes are all black, while his shirt and inner coat are white. His gray coat also has stripes of black in the front and some on the inner fabric. He wears glasses, but they don't seem to be necessary. Arcadia. Issei spoke with a tone of surprise, as Arcadia. Issei gave a smile to him. He was an older version of Issei that had existed in a world that had the legendary world of Arcadia, where he stumbled into it by sheer accident. Are you one of my brother's alternatives? Like concept? Arcadia. Issei looked at her and gave a nod as he walked towards them with Mary commenting with a smile, you look older. Technically I am older, and my age is around 23, so yes, I am older than your Issei. Ingvild looked at him and asked, why did Issei call you Arcadia? Arcadia. Issei looked at Ingvild. It was not his Ingvild, neither she was the alternate Ingvild from his own world. He smiled, hearing that this Ingvild was different from the one he had back in his DxD world. He then looked at her and spoke with a smile, I am actually from DxD world, but I live in Arcadia, along with my wife who is the Empress of Arcadia. Anyways, I will be taking Concept's place to train you until he comes back. Why did you leave your own world, then? Mary asked, to which Arcadia. Issei responded, my past is similar to Concept's, but there are a few flaws. Unlike him where I made his life miserable. In my reality, when my parents sensed that I had no magic, I was disowned by my own family, but they still kept me around, fed me and cared for my expenses, but I was all alone. And well, I certainly did not make things better. If anything, he made it far worse. Mary and Ingvild felt bad for this Issei. They were livid at how his life was far worse than Concept. Issei's life, but despite this, he made his life around, and he could care less what happens to those in his own world. So what happened to your own world? Arcadia. Issei shook his head and spoke, Revan asked me to not speak anything about it, and you will view my world soon enough, once Concepts is done with his viewing, that is. I'd rather keep my mouth shut about Arcadia since my people aren't a big fan of outsiders knowing about them. Arcadia. Issei spoke with a sigh, remembering on how hostile his people are towards the Four Kingdoms and his people from his world. Mary then asked. Okay, I understand, so who is this wife of yours? Arcadia. Issei responded with a smile of his own, sorry, spoilers. Mary pouted in response, as Arcadia. Issei spoke with a smile, truth be told, I'd say this Issei is lucky to have an older sister that genuinely loves him, and a counterpart of you, that cares for you, unlike mine, whom you know chose die over her. Arcadia. Issei spoke, while hiding the alternate version of Ingvild that was a part of his team in shadow. While Ingvild and Mary smiled genuinely for this, they were happy that Arcadia. Issei thought so highly of them. Arcadia. Issei then took a deep breath and spoke, I will be taking my leave. You should be up at around 9 p.m. tomorrow, since you do have a lot of catching up to do. Goodbye. Arcadia. Issei headed outside of the room, as Issei responded, goodbye. Arcadia. Once Arcadia had left, Issei called Revan and moments later he had shown up. Yeah. Can you make a room for Mary? Revan looked at her and spoke with a smile, sure, why not? If anything, they are expecting you to show up. I figured this would be happening, so I made a room. Prior, just say, room, and you'll head there, although you will be present for the final viewing. Mary nodded and thanked Revan as he teleported away to deal with some other guests. Mary was also sent to her room once she said it. Ingvild, how about you have some food and then we can head to sleep? Ingvild looked at him and nodded. Issei then helped her with the services that were providing her with the food as they had their dinner together. Back at the theater, the guests were having their own discussions. Revan was watching them while removing his helmet, revealing a yellow figure with a smile. He then spoke, oh, it's so suffocating wearing this all the time. Things have been very, very interesting so far. Revan spoke with a grin, as he knew that compared to the RWBY cast, the DxD cast were more mature and understanding, knowing how deadly this variant of Issei has been acting around them. They knew one thing, his very existence is chaotic yet kind, but the latter is only meant for those that he loves and cares for. The rest, he could care less if they lived or died, he could care less for what happens to them. This is not the issue, he knew bringing Concept. Issei right now would be problematic given his natural aggression towards the factions, especially the three factions. Maybe, let's see what talks they have. Revan soon watched the conversations that were happening between Issei's family and Aika and Ryu. They all have had their dinner before that. We made some really bad choices, Goru. Mickey spoke with a sad tone as Goru agreed to his wife's words. He then spoke with a sigh. We should not have let this even take place. Those girls only used Ryu for their own entertainment. They may have left him when they don't see him as loving, or they lose interest in him. Dad, Mom, the two parents looked at Ryu. He then spoke, I don't understand. Why are my counterparts this heartless? Like, why do they have so much hatred towards him? They want to make his life so miserable. It seems like we made him that way. Look at how we raised him, and it seems like our counterparts were the worst versions of ourselves. They made our children the way it is, and worse, Mary herself hates us. Goru spoke sadly. As the Haidu family could not say much, Issei was losing them, and things were going to get worse. Mom, Dad, is there anything we can do? Goru shook his head and spoke, I am not sure, but we must leave him for a while. He then looks at Ryu and asks. Son, can I ask you something? Ryu looks at him and nodded as he spoke, yeah. Did you ask the girls out despite knowing that they are dating him? Or was it the other way around? Goru asked with concern as he spoke, no, they came to me for a date. I was surprised at first, but even then, I asked considering that Issei Nai clearly loves them, but they wanted to do away with him, given that he is a pervert. I understood their reasoning and went along with it, knowing that him being perverted was the reason why those girls left him. Goru and the rest of the family sighed at this. This was a common phenomenon that had happened with the family and many others as well. But my counterpart, he actively stole the girls my brother loved, especially Ingvild. It is just messed up, Ryu added his own words, but he never knew that Dai actively did try to harm him. The rest of the Haidu family were silent. There was still some hope, however. If they wanted to say back, they had to change themselves. As this was going on, the Orc, Student Council, Risers, Sayergs and Sikvera's peerage were discussing things, however it seemed more like the other four ganging up on Rias, with many being outright angry or disgusted at the Grimoire peerage for their actions. Really cheating on him? What were you thinking, Rias? Sona spoke angrily. She and her peerage were not happy with what Rias and her peerage had done and they wanted answers. I really don't know Sona. I thought he was better than Issei. Rias spoke with a tone with guilt and fear as Sona gave a frustrated sigh. She was beyond angry with what Rias had done and she never really thought about that when Sikvera added. You betrayed him just because he was a pervert. What I don't get is why you didn't bring this issue to him. Or even break up with him. If you didn't like him, then why you didn't tell him this to his face? Sure, his heart would be broken, but that is way better than what you did. Sikvera added her own frustrated words. Even she was frustrated on how dumb and damaging her actions were. Rias and her peerage were silent as Sayerg shouted. For the love of Lucifer. Can you answer? Sayerg shouted angrily, causing Rias to flinch under the anger. Despite this, she couldn't answer. She had no answer. She already had given her action. She never thought of this perspective. I never thought of doing. Rias spoke with tears falling from her eyes. This caused a frustrated sigh from both Sikvera and Sayerg, while their peerages along with Sona's peerage were glaring at them. Sona, a moment. Jinshiro muttered into Sona as she asked, what is it? We need to talk about Issei. I believe Vitra would want to speak about it. Jinshiro's words made Sona nod. As she remembered that she promised to talk to Sona about this, she could see from the corner of the eye that Olivian was also doing the same for Sikvera about this. Sayerg, let's just leave. There is nothing we can do. She made her foolish decision, and now all must suffer for her actions. Sikvera spoke towards Sayerg, who nodded in understanding. The peerages soon left the girls to their own doing, as her peerage consoled Rias during the situation, while Kiba shook his head in disappointment, but he couldn't force Rias to change her mind. He sighed, knowing things were going to get even worse. As they sat down in a different area of the cafeteria, Sona looked at Jinshiro and asked, so what is it that you wanted to talk about? Jinshiro took a deep breath and spoke. I and Vitra could tell about the possibilities of Issei's current nature, although these are just possibilities, Sona. Well shoot, go ahead. Sona spoke with a serious tone. As Sikvera spoke, you too Olivian, let us know what is it that you are thinking. Olivian spoke with a deep breath and continued, you see, dragons are attuned to very strong emotions and attachments. This actually causes a major problem in them. It can act as a very strong deterrent, but when a dragon is harmed, it can be extremely damaging when his emotions can damage them. Vitra told me that this time, or the next time we will be seeing Issei, he will be a very different Issei, and I mean it. Sona seemed to show concern at Jinshiro's words, as she looked at him and asked, explain. Like Olivian said, emotions can change a dragon completely. They can either make them good, or they can make them worse. When we meet Issei the next time, things will only become worse. He will not see us as someone he can rely on. I mean, we have already seen instances of him right away. He no longer trusts us. Jinshiro's words were agreed by Olivian, who nodded in agreement, while the rest went horrified at this revelation, as Sayerg asked. No longer trusts us. Like, what did we do to deserve that level of mistrust? Jinshiro was about to answer when Olivian spoke. I will take it from here. Jinshiro looked at him and nodded. It is simple, in his eyes, you were not there for him when he needed you the most. If my hunch is correct, I hope he did not suffer what I think he suffered. Olivian spoke. His voice held fear as Sakura asked. What are you talking about, Olivian? Olivian took a deep breath and spoke. The disease known as Dragon's Fall. I have heard of that disease. Sona spoke with concern in her voice as Momo asked, what is it? I am getting to that. Momo. Sona then continued, it is a disease that happens in dragons. It usually happens when a dragon suffers a tragic betrayal. The severity of the disease depends on how much a dragon loves his mate. This will only take place when his mate abandons or cheats on him. It is similar to how love can kill a person. That is why dragons are very careful in choosing who they love, and in some cases they even avoid other beings and prefer to be left alone. Sona's explanation made many wide-eyed, as they knew what this meant. There was a possibility that Issei died. Even Sona herself was pale when she heard of Dragon's Fall, and if Issei would have got it, there would be a massive change in his nature if he survived. Worse, his survival chances are limited. Sona-sama, can you tell me how much you loved Rias? Sona took a moment to think as she spoke. Rias was his girlfriend, and Issei already had a girlfriend before him, and that was Rainer. I don't know how much he loved her, but all I know is that Issei was very close to Rias. That is all I can say. Then it would have been painful if he got the disease. The words made many dread and become pale upon this revelation. They all knew how much Issei must have suffered, as Kusha then asked. So what should we do? Sona looked at her and spoke. Keep distance from Issei. He needs to recover, and when someone has to talk, let me do the talking. Hopefully I can gain his faith and eventually trust once again. The others seemed to agree with that. Sona was a skilled negotiator when it comes to matters like these. They all knew that Sona may have a chance in talking to them. Soon after they all leave to have their discussions, as Tsubaki looked at her peerage that remained with her speaking, can you all leave for a moment? I need to talk to Sona in private. The peerage seemed to understand as they left for a while, leaving Sona alone, as Tsubaki asked, so what are you going to do? Are you going to tell them about that? I was going to inform him after that during our meeting, but now with what happened, I am uncertain about what will happen. Sona spoke with a sigh. She wanted to talk to him, but given that he did not trust them, she was uncertain on how he was going to take the news. Meanwhile, the faction leaders were discussing on what they need to do with Issei, as Surziches spoke with a sigh. Honestly, with what has happened, what should we do now? Surziches spoke with a sigh, as Azazel spoke with a sarcastic tone. You tell me, it is partially your fault that this situation is even happening. Not helping. Surziches spoke with a frustrated tone, as Auden spoke, that boy really has lost faith in us because of what your sister did behind your back, Surziches, but even we don't know what he thinks of us. He may think of us as a problem for the time being. But father, why would we be a problem? Thor asked with a tone of surprise, as Auden shook his head and spoke. He thinks that we all are involved in the betrayal, but that is not true. Gaining his, or I should say regaining his trust will be the hardest thing we ever do. You are right, Lord Auden. The one who spoke was Yusaka. She knew what this meant, and she will do anything to regain his trust. She had to stay strong for herself and her daughter. I thought you would have lost it when he heard that he did not trust you. Azazel spoke with a smile as Yusaka shook her head and spoke. No, Azazel, I am not giving up on him. I finally fell for someone after Kunu's father, and I am not giving up on him besides. When it comes to matter like these, I am a leader first and a mother second. We need to tell him that we are not Issei's enemies, and will never be. I see. Azazel spoke with a smile, as he was happy for her. Keeping leaders' priorities first is important. That is something that all leaders must do. But how will we regain his trust? Surziches asked, to which Azazel responded. That is something we must talk to him, although I wonder if we can even get our chance. Azazel's words made the leaders nod, however someone else spoke in the room. You will have to be patient for that, Crow. The leaders looked to see both Office and Lilith looking at them, as Office spoke emotionlessly. The fact that you all don't see Issei as a threat is good, but there are gods that may do so. You know who I am talking about, right? Yes, Indra may be a problem. He can see him as a threat. Then we have some gods like Zeus and Artemis that can see him as a problem, so we have to find a way to convince them otherwise. Office added her own words. That would be wise. If Issei sees them as a threat, he won't stop training until he becomes strong enough to deal with them. However, there is another reason why he is training to become stronger. Office spoke emotionlessly, as Surziches asked. What threat? Office shook her head and spoke. Apologies, Revan has asked me to keep this hidden. It will be revealed soon enough and it would be unlike anything we have faced. Office's words made many worried. What did she mean by unlike anything we have faced? This new threat that Office spoke of brought fear to the hearts of many. They could only hope that whoever is training Issei is strong enough to deal with this threat. Office then spoke. Also keep her and her peerage away from Issei. If you don't, I can't guarantee if she will be safe. Surziches nodded in understanding as he spoke. I will, she must stay far away from Issei. If this threat is something that is unlike we have ever seen, then we may need everyone's help to defeat, and if she uses her spoiled nature to try and control him, then she will be done for. I seriously question why couldn't they at least speak out about it. Surziches spoke with a sigh. It was literally common sense that Ria should have broken up with him and then dealt with the situation soon enough. She assumed that Issei would forgive and forget what she did, but now we have seen a reality where he does not and can be scary. If he had malicious intentions, I am just glad that Issei-kun from our world does not do so, like concept. Issei. Gabriel was the one who spoke. She was very disappointed with Irina for what she had done. She looked at Michael, who was planning to strip her of her angel status. Reason be damned, she cheated on Issei. I know, and the existence of concept. Issei makes me wonder, how many Isseis have either lost faith in us or outright hate us? Ajuka spoke the words to everyone present, as Surziches spoke. That scares me, Ajuka. If someone like concept Issei exists, that means that there is other Isseis that also have the same intentions. Are there any worse Isseis aside from concept Issei? You best not know about it, Surziches. I have met some of them, and they have already done some serious damage. If you think concept Issei is bad, then some of them are even worse. Office's words increased the fear and dread in many of the hearts. Other Isseis being worse than concept Issei is really scary, and no one wanted to deal with it. The audience could see Ria's parents scolding Rias for her actions. Many believed she deserved it, with Barakwil doing the same for Akeno, Griselda doing the same for Zenobia, and Irina's parents doing the same for Irina. Their actions have completely broken this world's Issei, and they hated this happening to their Issei as well. Reiser was also having a strong conversation with his sister about her actions. Ravel, why did you listen to Rias when you could have easily told off Issei if you didn't like him? Reiser spoke seriously as he continued, tell me, Ravel, what were you thinking? I don't know, I thought it would be a good thing to take a break from Issei-sama, and Reiser cuts her off and speaks, call him Haidu-sama from now on. You have lost the right to call him by his first name. Reiser spoke with anger as Ravel looked down, as she continued. I listened to Rias thinking that if we date his brother, he would tone down his perversion. But I never knew this would happen. I never felt any connection with his brother than I did with Issei. Reiser shook his head and gave a frustrated sigh. He rubbed his head in annoyance and spoke. Ravel, let me tell you one thing, your actions have already driven him away. He sees you know better than Rias. You should have been better when you made the decision. I should have known Rias was not a good influence on you. Reiser shook his head and spoke. What would your parents and your older siblings think, especially Claire, who has a close bond with him? Ravel gulped at the prospect of dealing with Claire, who already has a strong bond with him, due to his time with the Phoenix clan when he was in the underworld, helping Reiser overcome his fear of dragons. Her older sister is not someone you want to anger, under any circumstance. I hope you realize the consequence of your actions. Change yourself, and word of advice, stay away from Rias. Reiser spoke seriously while walking away, as Ravel was left alone crying for what she had done. Irina also was having a conversation with her parents Mina and Tauji as Mina asked, tell me, Irina, did you really like Issei at all? Or do you see him as your perverted friend? Irina looked away as Tauji spoke angrily. Look at us when I speak to you. Irina looked at her father and responded, I do. Then why did you cheat on him? Why did you follow Zenobia, who clearly chose to follow a spoiled brat? Answer us, Irina. Irina was quiet as he gave out her reasons. I was devastated when I found out that Issei was a pervert, and when he refused to change, I was tempted by the fact that I thought he would change when he sees me with another man, his brother, who was clearly a gentleman. Tauji and Mina gritted their teeth in anger. They blamed Rias for indirectly manipulating their daughter by playing with her feelings. Tauji took a deep breath and calmed down. What's done is done, there is nothing you can do, and I thought you better than to listen to a devil. You should know that you have lost Issei, and there is nothing you can do about that. Tauji and Mina walked away as Irina looked down in shame and sadness, while Mina spoke to Tauji. I should have not let Zenobia go with her, she has always been a bad influence to her. Tauji shook his head and responded. Like I said before, we can't do anything, now we can only hope that Irina can learn from this mistake and be better. Mina looked at her husband and nodded in understanding. Meanwhile, Volley Team and Team Slashdog were having their own discussion as well. They were devastated and horrified by how things have become, especially with Issei, with LaFay being consoled by Arthur. It was no secret that the girl loves Issei. I hope you are happy, Kuroka, with what you and Kaneko have done for Issei. Valerie spoke seriously and angrily as Kuroka looked away with fear and guilt. She knew what this Issei is capable of and what damage he could do to her sister if he so wanted to do so. Now, all we can do is that get him on our side. What the Gremory girls has done to Issei is wrong on so many levels. Like, why couldn't she tell that she does not want to be with Issei because of his perversion? Tobio spoke with a frustrated sigh as Suzaku responded. I agree, and worse, my cousin is one of the few that was involved in this mess. Tobi-kun. Suzaku's tone then changed to that of a sad tone as she spoke. Aunt Shuri would be disappointed and disgusted in her. Suzaku spoke as Tobio calms her down, with Kaki continuing, I know Issei is a perv, even I am, but how they treat him is beyond messed up. As much as I hate to say this, brute, I agree with him. Natsume spoke with an annoyed tone, earning a tick mark on Kaki's head, however he soon calmed down and spoke. Regardless, Tobio, how do you think we should deal with this? Tobio took a deep breath and spoke, I honestly don't know, we don't know what he is thinking, what he plans to do. All we know is that he does not trust us or believe in us as of now. Icon is not like concept. Issei, that is all I can say, we may still have a chance. Tobi-kun. Lavinia added her own words, her counterpart's fate was still haunting her, but she believed that this Issei wouldn't go this far with him. Since he would have no reason to quarrel with them, and they hoped that they could mend their relationship with him. I hope so, Lavinia, cause if he is, then we are done for. Sei spoke with fear, seeing how ruthless concept Issei was, as many had to agree with Sei on this. They soon looked at LaFay, who was being calmed by Arthur. She hated the fact that a version of her crush has become so ruthless and vindictive. If he is, Sei, then we have to show him that we are not like our concept. Counterparts. Tobio spoke seriously, earning nods from his team. Even Valerie team agreed with this, while Kuroka remained silent, wondering how she could save her sister from Issei. There was another conversation going on between Nyx and Hades, as Hades still looked down, noticing in the concept world his wife was still alive, as he wondered what she would think of him. Hades, you there? Hades looked up in surprise to see Nyx talking to him. As he spoke, why yes. You miss her, don't you? Hades sighed and spoke, yeah I do. After his wife's death, Hades became a shadow of his former self. He started to distance himself from his own daughters, who were also beginning to grow more distant, eventually descending into the cruel and hateful Hades we all know today. Anyways, we should change our plans. Instead of eliminating the Longinus users, we should instead get them to our side. They can prove valuable for our goals. Hades spoke with a serious tone as Nyx responded, but how? How will we get them when almost all of them work with the factions? We have to convince them, and I think I have an idea. Our goal will be to get Issei on our side. Kao once told me that Issei Haidu is known as the most dangerous Red Dragon Emperor for a reason, and that was, he can bring people to his side. He already does not trust the factions, so this may be our chance to get him by our side. Nyx seemed amused by this plan, however she heard of her counterpart's love interest in Nyx. She shook her head at the thought of falling in love with anyone, wondering why her counterpart fell for Issei. The dragons were quiet, having their own thoughts on the matter. The mere concept of Issei being evil and destructive amused Crom, well, it scared Tiamat. For once she felt fear seeing a Red Dragon Emperor being this ruthless and cold. Scene change. Issei's room, 9:30 p.m. Issei and Ingvild were in their rooms having their dinner, as they were speaking to each other. As Ingvild speaks, Ice, can I ask you something? Sure, what's the issue? Ingvild shook her head and spoke, I wanted to tell you, there are still others that you can trust. How and why? Issei looked at her and responded, how can I trust them? When they see me as a threat and when they ignored me due to the girls. That is far from true, Ice. If anything, the girls did not tell them anything. The only ones complicit in this infidelity were your parents, your younger siblings and the girls themselves. As for the others, some are not punishing Rias and the girls enough. The ones that are absolutely livid with the girls are only some of them. Ingvild spoke with a sigh as she continued, only a select few really care for you. The others are having their own plans on how they are going to deal with you. I hope they don't wish for a war. So who are these people that do care for me? Issei asked with a tone full of surprise. Rivan did mention that not all of them betrayed Issei, but he wondered who are they. Since Rivan refused to tell, he informed him that he will come to know when the time is right. They are Azazel, Yusaka and her family, Valerie and her team minus Kuroka, and finally Team Slashdog. Issei was surprised by the last part, as he asked, why them? I don't even know them so properly. I don't know, but they seemed really angry when this was happening, and all I am asking is to talk with them, and if you think I am lying, then I would never suggest you to trust anyone else. Issei went wide-eyed, as he asked in shock. Why do you think you would lie to me? Ingvild looked at him and responded, is it not obvious? I can see the fear in your eyes, you fear trusting others, don't you? I know that cause I can see it, you fear being betrayed again, don't you? Issei couldn't deny it, she saw right through him. Ingvild was surprisingly perceptive and observant. She knew him hiding his trust issues, and she had no reason to hide it. Additionally, training from Graphia allowed her to see through the situation. She was trained properly in reading situations and understanding what is going on. She knew exactly how to help Issei in this situation. She did not want to see her king suffer in any way. She wanted to help him, and she will do anything for that, but first he needs to start seeing that the whole supernatural world is not his enemy. There are some whom he can call allies, especially in this war against these EVs. So take your time, I am not saying to immediately trust them and paint a buddy picture, talk to them when you are ready, and I am here to support you, no matter what happens. Ingvild spoke with a smile, while keeping her hand on Issei's cheek, who follows it up with his own hand, as he responds, I guess I can do that. That's the ice, I know now, let us eat. I still have my last viewing since Revan plans to show another of concepts watching. Issei nodded in understanding as he asked with a bit of desperation, can you please stay in this room? Ingvild had a blush on her face as she looked at him and spoke, do you want me to? Of course, I would love it if you came back here. Ingvild also wanted to stay with him, but she was uncertain whether she would be allowed here, as someone else spoke, of course, you're welcome to stay here. In fact, I have set your room to set here, so you and only you can visit here anytime you want. The two were surprised to see Revan show up here. He had worn back his helmet as he spoke, it is time to go Ingvild, the final viewing has begun. Ingvild looked at Issei, who nodded, she gave a smile back to him and spoke, wait for me, okay. Issei again nodded as he waited for her. Soon enough, Ingvild walked towards Revan, and they teleported out of there, leaving Issei waiting for her. Soon, he gave one final look before resting for a while. Scene change. Cafeteria, 10 p.m. Revan soon teleports Ingvild and Mary back, the latter he had gotten while during this time, the people were having their discussions, as Revan clapped his hands while speaking, may I have everyone's attention, please. Everyone looked at the trio and had several questions, however Revan spoke, now then, Ingvild, Mary, would you like to speak about what Issei has to say to the audience? The audience wondered what the girls has to say to the audience, as Mary spoke, first and foremost, he gave a very clear warning to keep those whores away from him, or else there is no telling what will happen, he does not want to deal with any of them right now, since he has his reasons. Mary's voice was crystal clear yet cold, she meant business, as she gave a cold glare towards the cheating girls, causing them to shiver with fear, she wanted them out of her little brother's life. Second of all, he has also stated this, he does not want to work with the factions ever again, since their goals contradict his current goals, however he has no reason to cause any harm to the factions if they don't bother him, that is all. Mary ended her words, making many more worried, even though he has no intention of outright harming anyone, his words of not being involved saddened and devastated many of the guests. Those like Riaz and her peerage were fearful given Mary's first warning, those that were weary and angry at the girls were even more angered by this, and understood Issei's warning of him wanting them to stay away from him. They understood Issei's anger very well. Some others hoped that Issei was not their enemy, due to what the girls did, otherwise, they will meet the same state as their concept's counterparts. Ingvild then finally spoke. And last but not the least, those that still care for him may have a chance to talk with him in the future. So you must not worry and give him some time. The ones mentioned were happy by this revelation, they knew that there was hope and a chance for them, they knew what this meant, as Ingvild added, additionally, 3 of the girls that cheated on Issei, who were in his peerage like Ravel, Roswis and Zenobia, they have been completely replaced by 3 new peerage members that have taken their place, they are now his new bishop. His new rook, his new knight respectively. This news horrified the 3 people mentioned, while Leisure remained in dread on the prospect of being replaced, Ravel was devastated, while the other 2 were pale by this revelation, the fact they are replaced completely stunned and horrified them, they were crying, but no one cared for their tears, some wanted to, but it was their own choice that caused this mess to begin with. Alright everyone, now head to the theater for the next viewing. Any more questions, you can ask when the viewing is done. The audience nodded, albeit reluctantly as they had gotten up and headed to the theater, while Revan teleported elsewhere to get some more new guests, these will certainly shake the theater. That's it guys. Thanks for watching and supporting us. See you in the next part.